ekanta atyanta dasyaikaratihi tatpadamapnuyat tat pradhanamidam shastramiti gītārtha sangragaha. Ekanta atyanta dasyaikaratihi. Yamunacharya beautifully summarizes the Gita and concludes with a declaration as to who is the right audience for the Gita. Another way to look at it is, what is the objective of the study and practice of the Gita? The answer to both the questions is the same. Who is the right audience? And what is the object of study and practice of the Gita? He just coins one simple but profound phrase. Ekanta atyanta dasyaikaratihi. Exclusive, unwavering, unflinching servitude, loving servitude to Bhagavan. Vasudevam sarvamiti is the truth. But there is a very important phrase in that shloka. If we recall, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudevas sarvamiti samahatmasu durlabaha. Samahatmasu durlabaha, Krishna says. It's very durlabha, hey Arjuna, to become the supreme bhakta is durlabha, Krishna says. Who is that supreme bhakta? Vasudevas sarvamiti, the one who realizes that Vasudeva is sarvam. But there is also one other qualification for a supreme bhakta. Vasudeva sarvamiti, Krishna says, but then he qualifies it saying, Jnanavan mam prapadyate. Jnanavan, the supreme bhakta. Who is that Jnanavan? Who, knowing Vasudeva sarvamiti, mam prapadyate. Krishna is everything. But everything is not Krishna. There is a very subtle difference between the two. Just because Vasudeva sarvamiti does not mean I surrender to everything. Krishna qualifies Vasudeva sarvamiti saying Jnanavan mam prapadyate. Knowing Vasudeva sarvamiti, which means Vasudeva is everything. Everything is not Vasudeva. That may sound confusing. This is the nature of Bhagavan. He is immanent. He is also transcendent at the same time. Vasudeva is everything. He is the antaryami of each and every one. He is the antaryami of every object, every entity in this creation. But knowing that, we can't go around surrendering to each and everything. Surrendering to Krishna means realizing that everything in this world is only a manifestation of a spark of His glory. So therefore, the supreme bhakta is one who surrenders to Krishna exclusively, unflinching, exclusive, undivided bhakti. Bhakti cannot be divided. I cannot divide bhakti and distribute it. It has to be undivided, unflinching, unwavering. That is supreme bhakti. Now, this can only be realized after study of the entirety of Gita. It is not possible for somebody to realize right at the beginning. That is why Krishna does not right at the beginning look at Arjuna and all of us and say, Surrender to me. Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. He does not say right at the beginning. He reserves this declaration till the end so that one gets prepared in this journey. One gets prepared to understand that one needs to lead a life rooted in the contemplation of Krishna. Consciousness of Krishna has to manifest as Krishna Kainkarya. Now, what did Arjuna do when he is recommended that he should be constantly contemplating on Krishna? He was also recommended that he should also engage in war. Now, how can these two go together? Only when we understand that we can continue to contemplate on Krishna by engaging in Krishna Kainkarya. Krishna Kainkarya is a manifestation of Krishna consciousness. And therefore, we should have no doubt whatsoever when the Shastra recommends, prescribes that we should be constantly contemplating only on Krishna. Because the most often asked question is, how can we do that? Only when we do devotional activities, I can contemplate on him when I sing a bhajan, I can contemplate on him when I chant a shloka, I can contemplate on him when I do dhyana, I can contemplate on him when I am in a temple, I can contemplate on him when I am in my puja mandir. But how else can I contemplate on him outside of these direct devotional activities? Most often, we seem to be engaged more in non-devotional activities in our life and living. If that is the case, is this prescription that constant contemplation is a prerequisite, is it even practical? Krishna very clearly towards the end of the Gita clarifies saying it is very much practical, because Arjuna himself, after listening Gita, engaged in the war in order to please Krishna. So which means doing any activity that pleases Krishna is nothing but staying connected to him and staying conscious of him. When we are in an unfamiliar territory and then suddenly power goes off, we may start complaining because suddenly we are lost. It's an unfamiliar territory. There is no power. It's all darkness. And then we are struggling and we may start ranting, complaining, raving. But then we realize after some time that we have a torchlight. And then we switch on the torchlight and slowly and steadily, one step at a time, we reach safety. In life too, most of the times, we are in the darkness of perplexity, not knowing what is the right thing to do. Things seem to be going wrong. And it is in those times that our attitude of Kainkarya, service to Krishna, becomes our torchlight. It is in those times the perplexity, the darkness of perplexity can only be dispelled with the torchlight of Krishna Kainkarya. It is in those times that we realize that we may not be in control, but Krishna is always in control. And he is my benefactor. Therefore, what is there for me to be worried? And when we engage in service to him, all of a sudden, our focus shifts from what has gone wrong to what we can do right. That is the reason why Gita is so very practical. After such a profound philosophy of Sharanagati, Gita ends on a note of action in the mode of servitude to Krishna. So therefore, there should be no doubt whatsoever. Whenever Krishna refers to the Supreme Bhakta, one who is constantly contemplating on Bhagavan is the one who is also engaged in activities that are pleasing to Krishna. So what does this mean to us? All that it means to us is the essence of Gita is to stay engaged in doing actions that are pleasing to Krishna. That is why the first qualification for a Sharanagata is Anukulyasya Sankalpaha. keep asking the question, this deed that I am engaged in, is this going to please Krishna? If we ask this one question right at the beginning of any of our activities, then we can be able to shape every action as Krishna Kainkariya. One simple question. Is this something that will please Krishna? So what we see here now, we are towards the end of Gita, going into the Palashruti of the Gita, where Krishna is giving us what are the benefits of studying the Gita, what are the benefits of practicing the Gita, what are the benefits of sharing the Gita, what are the benefits of propagating the Gita, what are the benefits of preaching the Gita, what are the benefits of staying connected with Gita, living the Gita. Yayidam paramam guhyam. Again, Krishna keeps referring to that paramam guhyam many times towards the end, because he wants to drive home the point, the power of the treasure that he has bestowed to us. At no point in time we should discard the sanctity of this treasury. It needs to be revered. This is one body of knowledge that needs to be venerated, revered day in and day out. That is why Gita needs to be worshipped. Krishna needs to be worshipped, but Gita also needs to be worshipped. So very important, because that's why he goes on focusing on this paramam guhyam many times towards the end of the Gita. Yayidam paramam guhyam mat bhakteshu abhidhasyati. Mat bhakteshu abhidasyati. Now, having said in the previous shloka, hey Arjuna, you have to be cautious when you share this Gita Shastra, when you share this most confidential knowledge. Be conscious as to whom you are sharing this with. The recipient of this confidential knowledge should be carefully selected, he says. We clearly understood then why Krishna is saying that this needs to be shared with caution. Krishna is not talking about any restriction. Krishna is only talking about avoidance of misuse of this confidential knowledge. He is only talking about how one needs to grow up to receive. It's like basically we saying, don't give $1 million check to a 1-year-old baby. If somebody writes $1 million check and gives it to a 1-year-old baby, immediately we say, please don't give. Because the baby, what is that baby is going to do? It's going to tear it apart. How will the baby realize what is the significance of this $1 million check? When it is given to an 18-year-old young adult, he or she will accept it very graciously, very happily. Because why? He or she realizes the significance of that $1 million check. Similarly, Krishna is saying, beware. Now, again, we looked at how we need to also understand it at two levels. Is Krishna talking about the entire text of the Gita, or Krishna is talking about the most guhya part of the Gita, especially the Shloka 65 and 66? There are some commentators who refer to this as the entire text of Gita. But if you look at that way, then it prevents us from sharing the message of Gita to the public at large. So therefore, we need to understand this as Krishna referring to the most confidential part of the text, where Krishna is talking about the divine law of love and the Sharanagati Shastra. Because without preparation, it becomes very difficult for anyone to digest what Krishna talks about, explains in Shloka 65 and 66. So therefore, Krishna says preparation is so very important. One needs to grow in order for one to receive the divine law of love, for one to receive the Charama Shloka. One needs that preparation. Therefore, if we have to share it, we have to also ensure that recipient is adequately prepared. So it is not about restriction, it is more of preparation that Krishna is talking about. Yahidam paramam guhyam madbhakteshu abhidasyati madbhaktim param lhaptva mame vaishyati asamshayaha. Krishna is also now giving the phala, the one who does this service. What is the service that Krishna is talking about here? He says, madbhakteshu abhidasyati, one who shares the supreme knowledge, one who explains the supreme knowledge to his devotees, to his bhaktas. Who are the recipients that Krishna is talking about? Those who have an open mind, those who have shraddha to receive the supreme knowledge. Madbhakteshu bhaktimayi param kritva. No, those who are engaged in supreme devotional service. Supreme devotional service is a state where one realizes the purpose of doing bhakti to Bhagavan. Krishna throughout the Gita has been teaching as to how we should not be seeking Krishna to solve our problems. We should not be seeking Krishna to solve our problems. We should be seeking problems in order for us to know and seek Krishna. Throughout the Gita, we understand that every life situation is an opportunity for us to seek Krishna. So therefore, Krishna cannot remain a problem solver. If he remains a problem solver, we only engage with him in a transactional business mode. Madbhaktim param kritva. The parabhakti that Krishna is talking about is essentially seeking Krishna through every situation that comes, that unfolds in life. So therefore, Krishna says that such a supreme bhakta, supreme devotee is the recipient of, the ideal recipient of the supreme knowledge. And if we strive to prepare others to reach that state and share the supreme knowledge, then it is as good as performing the ultimate kainkarya to Krishna. We all constantly ask this question: what will please Krishna the most? We do several activities. We do several devotional activities. But what is that which is most pleasing to Krishna? Krishna himself gives the answer. Whoever shares my message to my bhaktas is the one who is most pleasing to me. The most pleasing action that we can do is to share his message. So this is exactly what we do in the satsang. We all know that it is very, very important for us to count our blessings. Counting our blessings is so very important for us in our spiritual journey. In order for us to cultivate a spirit of gratitude, in order to cultivate bhakti, it becomes very important for us to keep counting our blessings. Only then, when we keep counting our blessings, only then we can spiritually progress. But progress, we will not progress if we stop at the state of counting our blessings. We need to go beyond. What is the next step of going beyond counting our blessings? Even when we keep counting our blessings, we realize that what we count is only temporary. The blessings that we keep counting are not going to stay forever, because after all, everything that we keep counting as our blessings are all externals, are all rewards given to us by Krishna to make our lives comfortable. So one day or the other, all these blessings are going to vanish. So therefore, just by keeping to count the blessings is not enough, and we need to move beyond. We need to shift our focus from the blessings to the one who bestows the blessings. This is the next stage. When we have to benchmark ourselves And when we have to look as to how much we have progressed on the path towards reaching our final destiny, it is important to see, are we graduating from a state of counting our blessings to a state of connecting with the one who blesses us all the time. This is the second stage. Second stage is connecting with the one who blesses us all the time. That is our shift in our focus from all the blessings that we have to the one who bestows the blessings. Because if our focus is only on the blessings, we are only looking at gifts in life. We are only looking at everything that rewards that Krishna has given us. But then at some point we need to realize that more important than these gifts, these blessings, is the gift giver. So moving from a state of looking at the gifts in life to look at life as a gift. Shift focus from our blessings to the bestower of blessings. Staying connected with him, connecting with Krishna, who is the one who blesses us. But Krishna says this too is not the final stage. The final stage, the first stage is counting our blessings. The second stage is connecting with Krishna, who is the one who keeps blessing us. The third and the supreme state, which is the most pleasing state according to Krishna, Eidam paramam guhyam madbhakteshu abhidasyati. The third and the final stage is moving from connecting with Krishna, who keeps giving us these blessings, to connecting everyone to him. Connecting everyone to him who is longing to bless everyone. This is the supreme state. This is what pleases Krishna the most. So this is why when we see all our acharyas, they are not praying alone. Most of our acharyas could have decided, once they are enlightened, they could have decided to retire from the world, go away in search of their own emancipation. Why do they spend time with the masses? Why do they spend their time and energy and effort and attention? It is primarily because they realize that what pleases Krishna the most is when we connect everyone to him. It is not about our connection to him alone. Our connection to him is so very important, no doubt. But going beyond connecting with him is to endeavor to connect everyone to him, because we know that Krishna is longing to bless everyone. Krishna is not our own. He belongs to everyone. And he is longing to bless one and all. He is waiting patiently for everyone to turn towards him. There are those who have already turned towards him. There are those millions and millions who have not yet turned towards him. And therefore, it becomes our responsibility, our duty, to also endeavor to connect one and all with Krishna. And that is why in the Palashruti, Krishna says, Eidam paramam guhyam madbhakteshu abhidhasyati bhaktim mai param kritva. This is the parama bhakti, Krishna says. The highest devotional service that we can do to Krishna is to share his word, to spread his word, to bring everybody under the umbrella of the Gita, to connect one and all, so that people start. Today, especially in today's world, Krishna talked about this thousands and thousands of years back. But how relevant it is even today. Because today, while we all think atheism is only a minority, most of the people in the contemporary world are functionally atheistic. Majority, I would say. You may think, how can I make that kind of an exaggerated statement? Majority in today's contemporary world are functionally atheistic. Why do I say that? This majority may not deny the existence of God, but this majority has made God irrelevant in their day-to-day lives. Unfortunately, Krishna has become irrelevant for vast majority of people. Why? Because he becomes relevant only when some desires have to be fulfilled, some work needs to be get done, and that too something which I cannot myself do. I think if I cannot do this, I will approach him. This has become the norm in today's society. Thinking that I can get many things done, whatever seems to be not possible within my scope, I will approach him. That is why when we go to Tirumala, no, I am earning X amount of money as though I am responsible for this money. Now, I want 10x. Can you do this? This is how we start, bargaining with him. Now, in order for praying to him, if there are rules and regulations that Shastras teach, one engages in them as long as they do not come in the way of my other pleasures in life. The moment these rules and regulations of the Shastras in one way or the other seem to be coming in my way of enjoying my life, then I ignore them. This has kindly become the norm. Rules and regulations seem to be restrictions without realizing these rules are the routes to higher pleasures. Do not understand. Therefore, anyone who says no to Krishna says so because he or she does not know Krishna. This knowing comes only when one understands that one expands the vision of God. The vision of God is one who is a provider of our provisions. This is the vision of God. Majority of the people has a vision that he is the provider of my provisions. I need something, I want something, he gives me. But then what we see in the Gita is a vision. A vision is presented which moves us beyond knowing that Krishna is more than provider of my provisions. He is the ultimate purpose of all my purposes. Only when I start knowing Krishna, knowing his nature, then I start also realizing how fascinating he can be. Until then, I only will ask him, why should I be interested in? What is the great interest in the study of Gita? What do I gain by it? No, Krishna doesn't really interest me. The majority of the people are like this today, functionally atheistic. Why? Because they have not been exposed to the fascinating aspect of the vision, which once a little taste of Krishna comes in, that is when magic can happen. And therefore it becomes our duty as we come towards the Gita. So again, the same answer to the same question. What after 18 chapters? Once again, resolve to continue to do it and ensure that more people get the benefit of the Gita. So therefore, Krishna here once again says, we need to be clear what pleases him most. That's why he says, Nachatasman manushyeshu. Nachatasman manushyeshu kaschid. So, of all the people, kaschin me priyakrittamaha. No one can do anything more pleasing than sharing this knowledge of knowledge that I have been imparting to you here, Arjuna. No other deed can be more pleasing. And he says, Bhavita nachame tasmad anyaha priyataro bhuvihi. Nor in the future, anybody can be more pleasing to me than the one who engages in sharing this message of mine, imparting this knowledge of mine to people at large. Therefore, it becomes very clear to us towards the Palashruti that the highest devotional service that we can do is to do his work, to do Krishna's work. Doing Krishna's work is taking his word to as many people as possible. Therefore, in Shloka 17, he says, Adhyeshyate cha yaimam dharmyam samvadamavayo. Adhyeshyate. Here Krishna is talking about the importance of the study of Gita. Importance of the study of the Gita. Adhyeshyate cha imam. He says, Dharmyam samvadamavayoho. Samvada, the samvada between, hey Arjuna, samvadamavayoho, the samvada that has happened between you and me, dharmyam, he qualifies. He says, it's such a sacred samvada. Whoever studies this samvada between you and me, he says, jnana yajnena tenaham ishtasyamiti me matihi. It is like performing jnana yajna, study of this samvada between Krishna and Arjuna. Study of this Gita is performing jnana yajna, he says. Way back in the 4th chapter, Krishna talks about yajna in detail. Yajna, in a nutshell, is nothing but sacrificing our ego in the fire of knowledge. Krishna talks about several yajnas. Dravya yajnas, tapo yajna, yoga yajnas, tatapare, swadhyaya jnana yajnamscha yatayaha samshita vrataha. Several yajnas he talks about, and he says the supreme yajna is jnana yajna. Yajna, doing yajna, essentially doing worship with our intelligence. Jnana yajna is using our intelligence for the sake of worshipping him. When we say, how do I worship Krishna? There are two ways of worshipping him. Worshipping him using gross resources, worshipping him using subtle resources. We are all familiar with the puja that we do, which is using the gross resources. That is one way of worshipping Krishna. Other and most important way of worshipping Krishna is worshipping him with our intelligence. That is jnana yajna. Now, how can we worship him with our intelligence? Intelligence, we saw that there is a difference between intellect and intelligence. Intellect is the faculty that is given to us for information processing. Intelligence is the faculty that is given to us for decision making. Both of them put together is called buddhi. When Shastra say buddhi, there is one facet of buddhi which helps us to process information. There is another facet of buddhi which helps us to take decisions. Krishna says, use intelligence to worship me. Now, when we use intelligence to worship him, essentially intelligence becomes instrumental in bhakti. Intelligence becomes integral in bhakti. How can intelligence become instrumental in bhakti? We need intelligence to analyze, to decode various principles. We do need intelligence, because in order for us to decode the philosophy that is presented in the Shastras, we need some amount of intelligence for sure. So decoding the principles, the practices, intelligence is needed. So intelligence becomes an instrumental in bhakti. Also, sometimes we may not have the inspiration to do devotion. It happens to all of us. Then with our intelligence, we need to inspire ourselves. We need to use our intelligence to keep saying that there is a need for us to continue to be engaged in devotional activities. So intelligence can also become instrumental in devotion. Sometimes, Sunday afternoons we wake up and say, maybe I will skip satsang. Then use intelligence and say, skipping satsang after all is not a good idea. Their intelligence becomes instrumental for our devotion. Intelligence is also integral in bhakti. How it is integral to bhakti? We offer in bhakti, we also offer our intelligence to Krishna. What is offering our intelligence to Krishna? Intelligence is our ability to make choices. So offering our intelligence to Krishna is essentially making one choice, choosing Krishna over everything else. So therefore, jnana yajnena tenaham, jnana yajnena tena. Through jnana yajna, one worships me. When we study the Gita, so therefore, studying the Gita, weekly chanting of the Gita is worshipping Krishna. Very important to understand. When we chant the Gita, when we study the Gita, when we live the Gita, it is all worshipping Krishna. What is beauty of Gita is, unlike the material treatment for any material disease, when we look at any material treatment, a treatment to any disease has two parts. There is a diagnosis part and there is a therapeutic part, the therapy part. Now, these are two different things. The diagnosis means analyzing what is the cause of the disease and how it needs to be approached. That's the diagnosis part. Once the diagnosis is done, then there is a different part. Then there is a treatment, there is a procedure, there are medicines given, the treatment goes. Now, in the context of the Gita, both diagnosis and therapy are one and the same. The Gita is both the diagnosis and the therapy at the same time. How can it be? It is the diagnosis. Why? Because it is in the Gita we get to understand and realize the root cause of the spiritual disease. Root cause of the disease of samsara. Root cause of samsara is spiritual amnesia. This is our misidentification. So through the Gita we get to understand diagnosis. Now when we study the Gita, we are fixed on the words of the Gita. When we chant the Gita, our mind gets fixed to the Shabda of the Gita. Now, the Shabda of the Gita is no different from Krishna. Krishna and Krishna's words are one and the same. And therefore, when we study the Gita, when we chant the Gita, our mind is also connected not just with the Shabda, also with Krishna. And in that process, the therapy, the treatment for the cure also happens simultaneously. So Gita is a text which is both the diagnosis and the therapy together. And that is the reason why Krishna says it is Jnana Yajna. Jnana Yajnena Tenaham Ishtasyamiti. And he says, one who does this Jnana Yajna, he is the one who is very, very dear to me, hey Arjuna. Again, repeatedly, Krishna is giving reasons as to why we should always stay connected with Gita. So, essentially, building relationship with Krishna can only happen when we build a relationship with Gita. We have to look at Gita, study of the Gita, tapping the power of Gita is nothing but building a relationship. And this building of relationship with the Gita goes through several stages. At one stage, it is veneration of Gita, to be in awe, reverence of the Gita. But it should not stop there. It may bring some merit. Many of us can take the Gita, put it in the altar and nicely pray to it every day. Good, we have to do it, but it cannot stop there. There could be some merit there, but there cannot be any empowerment there. So, worshipping the Gita literally only has limited benefits. Veneration has to then progress to comprehension. We need to endeavor to comprehend Krishna's teachings. This is why the Shastras talk about Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha. Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha. Repeatedly this needs to happen in a cyclic manner. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana has to go on in a cyclic manner because each process strengthens the other. Therefore, Krishna says, building that relationship with Gita has to move from veneration, reverence to comprehension. We need to necessarily analyze. We need to analyze, appreciate and assimilate. This each of us have to do individually. What is important is this assimilation can only happen individually. One cannot assimilate on behalf of the other. This is an individual effort that each and every one of us have to engage constantly. We need to analyze. We need to ask questions. This is the beauty. Just like how Arjuna has asked questions. Arjuna has only asked 18 questions, but we may have 1800 questions or even more. No problem. Only by asking questions, we can get the right answers. So this analysis has to be in a mode of submissiveness, in a mode of submissive curiosity. And this analysis needs to lead to appreciation and eventually assimilation. And that with that comprehension, we move to the next stage in our relationship building with Gita, which is application. Veneration is important, comprehension is important. If there is no application, then the Shastra is of no use. We need to necessarily apply the teachings of Gita in our day-to-day lives. And Gita is so very practical. Nothing in the Gita is impractical to implement. It is eternally relevant. So as we start applying, we start to experience the realities that are shared in the Gita. Until then, it is conceptual. Until then, these are principles. But then, once we start applying, these principles become experiences. These experiences then become realizations. So we need to consciously practice Gita, live Gita. The Gita has to go through us. We can go through Gita several times. That is not enough. We have to let Gita go through us. When Gita goes through us, which is application, then magic happens and we start to experience Krishna. And when we start to experience Krishna, then the final stage in building that relationship with Gita happens. The final stage is transformation. By practicing Gita, applying Gita, magically our heart and mind gets redirected. Suddenly our love gets redirected from the world to Krishna. Until then we are struggling to redirect our love. Our love for this world is so much. After all, it is, we are carrying this longing for the world for several lifetimes altogether. Redirecting it is not so easy. This transformation, when it happens, it gets redirected, and when that gets redirected, that is when we realize our relationship with Krishna. So building a relationship with Gita leads us to cementing our everlasting, eternal, inseparable relationship with Krishna. And that is why Krishna says, "Hey Arjuna, jnana yajnena tenaham ishtasyamiti me matihi." Who is most dear to me? Arjuna. Now he is looking at Arjuna and saying, "Arjuna, you are dear to me." Now he is making a generic statement. "Arjuna, you too will be dear to me only when you study Gita. Until then, I reserve my statement." Whoever studies the Gita, whoever practices the Gita, whoever lives the Gita, they are the ones who are most dear to me. Thus, Krishna in Palashruti continues to inspire us as to why it is so very important for us to stay connected to the Gita all the time. Because Krishna knows that one who reaches the 18th chapter may start asking questions. Okay, I can finish the 18th chapter, I will pack, and then Gita goes into the bookshelf. Gita should stay on the table all throughout our lives. Let us take a resolve that we stay connected with Gita throughout our lives. May Gita be our guiding light, our torchlight, guiding us, giving us the source of strength day in and day out, and may Krishna continue to inspire us. 18th chapter is still not over, but we will conclude on this note of contemplating on who is most dear to Krishna. Visualize Krishna looking at us and smiling and saying, "You are dear to me because you are connected to the Gita." May Gita continue to shower her blessings on us all. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.